Every time you swipe your credit card, something celebrates before you do. The strange part? It isn't your bank, it's your brain. That tiny swipe takes less than a second. But inside your brain, a chain reaction has already begun. Most people believe they're spending money. Your brain believes it's collecting a reward. That's why buying something feels exciting, even before you own it. Now here's the dangerous part. Every swipe also sends a completely different message to your credit profile. Your brain sees pleasure. The financial system sees growing risk. One number goes up, the other quietly goes down. Most people never notice either one, and this can be a gradual process that unfolds over time. Millions repeat this habit every week without realizing their brain is training itself to spend more. Behavioral scientists have spent decades studying this invisible loop. What they discovered changed the way we understand spending. By the end of this documentary, you'll never look at a credit card the same way again. To understand the trap, we first need to understand one number that banks quietly monitor every month. It's called your credit utilization ratio. Most people have never heard of it, but lenders pay close attention to it. Imagine your credit card gives you a limit of $10,000. That doesn't mean it's money you own. It's money you've been allowed to borrow. Now imagine you've already used $2,000. Your utilization is now 20%. Sounds harmless, right? Here's what most people don't realize. Your bank isn't just watching how much you spend. It's also watching how much of your available credit you're using. This percentage is your utilization ratio. It changes every time you swipe, even if you pay everything later. That's why two people with the same salary can end up with completely different credit profiles. One uses credit as a tool, and the other, unknowingly, starts depending on it, slowly, over time. The scary part isn't debt itself. It's how quietly your habits change before you even notice. Here's something surprising. Credit utilization isn't about how much money you have. It's about how much of your available credit you're using at a specific moment. Let's compare two people. Both earn the same salary, and both have the same credit card. The first person spends $2,000 from a $10,000 limit. That's 20% utilization. The second person spends $7,000 from the same limit. That's 70% utilization. They earn the same income. They make the same monthly payment, yet lenders do not see them the same way. Why? Because one person looks like they're managing credit. The other looks like they're depending on it. That's why many financial experts recommend keeping credit utilization low. It's one of the signals lenders use when assessing credit behavior. But here's the twist. Most people don't get into trouble because of one expensive purchase. It starts with dozens of small, forgettable swipes. A coffee today, lunch tomorrow, a subscription you forgot about. None of them feel important on their own. Your statement doesn't separate those habits. It combines every swipe into one number. And that's the number your lender sees. If using a credit card feels so effortless, there's a reason. Your brain experiences paying with a card differently than paying with cash. Years ago, behavioral researchers asked a simple question. Does the way we pay change how much we spend? The answer surprised even economists. People were willing to spend more when they paid with a credit card than with cash. Researchers called this the pain of paying. Cash makes the loss feel immediate. A card quietly delays that feeling. Your wallet notices the money leaving. Your brain notices the reward arriving. That's why a $40 purchase can feel surprisingly small when all you do is tap a card. Now imagine repeating that feeling 10, 20, or 50 times every month. Each swipe feels ordinary. Together, they quietly become a financial habit. Your brain doesn't remember one expensive purchase. It remembers dozens of easy rewards. And that's exactly where the dopamine loop begins. Here's something your brain never tells you. Dopamine isn't the reward. It's the expectation of the reward. That means your brain gets excited before you even own the product. The swipe becomes a shortcut. Your brain starts linking that tiny movement with instant satisfaction. Do it often enough, and the swipe becomes a habit long before the bill arrives. That's why people rarely remember every purchase. They only remember how easy each purchase felt. Now think about your last week. Coffee, lunch, fuel, maybe one online order. None of them felt expensive. Individually, they're tiny decisions. Together, they quietly reshape your financial behavior. And this isn't just psychology. Banks can see the pattern through one number, your utilization ratio. Your brain celebrates every swipe. The bank simply adds them together. Now let me show you how this quietly changed one person's financial life, without them realizing it. This isn't just theory. Financial counselors have seen the same pattern thousands of times. Small purchases slowly become overwhelming balances. One publicly documented case involved an office worker who believed he was spending responsibly because every purchase felt small. Coffee on Monday, lunch with coworkers, fuel after work, a few online orders during the month. None of those purchases looked dangerous. That's exactly why they were ignored. Weeks later, the monthly statement combined every tiny decision into one number. Nothing dramatic happened overnight. The balance simply grew faster than he expected. Financial experts say this is one of the most common ways people underestimate credit card debt. They remember the purchases, but not the total. That's because the brain stores dozens of pleasant buying moments. The statement records only the final cost. By the time many people notice the problem, changing the habit feels much harder than starting it. So the real question isn't why people use credit cards. The real question is why the brain keeps asking for one more swipe. This isn't just psychology. It happened to a real person whose story was later shared publicly. Her name is Megan Archer Fox. Like many people, she didn't believe she had a spending problem. It didn't begin with luxury cars or expensive jewelry. It began with normal life. Restaurants with family, small holidays, everyday shopping, one simple swipe at a time. The credit cards offered 0% interest at first. That made every purchase feel safe. When paying doesn't feel painful, your brain stops treating each purchase like a sacrifice. Months passed. The habit became normal. The balance quietly kept growing. Later, after having children, the same credit cards were used for groceries, fuel, and everyday essentials. Nothing looked unusual. Every purchase felt completely reasonable. Until one day, the numbers told a very different story. By then, the balances had grown to around £40,000. Not because of one mistake, but because of hundreds of ordinary decisions. She later revealed that just one credit card had already cost her around £2,700 in fees and interest. The problem wasn't a lack of intelligence. It was how normal the habit had become. That's exactly how behavioral psychology describes habit formation. Repetition quietly replaces awareness. One swipe feels harmless. 100 swipes create a lifestyle. And that's why your brain rarely warns you in the moment. Every purchase feels small on its own. Your monthly statement tells a completely different story. It remembers every single swipe. Megan eventually changed her financial habits and shared her experience to help others avoid the same trap. Her story proves something important. Credit card debt usually doesn't arrive all at once. It grows quietly while life feels completely normal. Megan's story isn't unique. Every day, millions of people unknowingly begin the same journey. Let's see how it happens in everyday life. Meet Alex. He's 28, has a stable job, pays his bills on time, and believes he's good with money. His credit card is not for emergencies. It is simply more convenient than cash. On Monday morning, he buys a $5 coffee before work. It feels completely normal. His brain doesn't remember losing $5. It remembers getting coffee in seconds. At lunchtime, his co-workers order food. Alex joins them without thinking twice. Another quick swipe, another small reward, another habit becoming easier. After work, his fuel tank is almost empty. One more tap, and he is on his way home. 3 purchases, each costing less than $30. Nothing feels expensive. That night, Alex scrolls through his phone and notices a pair of headphones on sale. The discount ends in 2 hours. His brain sees urgency. His finger sees one more easy swipe. The next morning, Alex doesn't even think about yesterday's purchases. His brain has already moved on. That's the hidden advantage of credit cards. The payment is delayed, so the discomfort is delayed too. When your brain doesn't feel the loss immediately, spending feels surprisingly easy. Psychologists call this present bias. We naturally value today's reward more than tomorrow's cost. It's why buying something now feels exciting, even when paying later feels stressful. Companies understand this better than most people do. That is why checkout is designed to be as effortless as possible. One click, one tap, 1 second. The easier the payment, the less your brain notices it. Alex still believes he is completely in control. That is what makes the habit so difficult to recognize. His spending hasn't exploded. It has simply become automatic. And that is the moment where a financial tool quietly starts becoming a financial habit. 3 weeks pass. Nothing unusual happens. Alex never misses a payment, and life feels completely normal. Then, his monthly credit card statement arrives. He isn't expecting a surprise. After all, every purchase felt small. He sits down, opens the envelope, and freezes. The total isn't impossible to pay. It's just much higher than he imagined. Coffee, lunch, fuel, online shopping, streaming, groceries. Each one looked harmless on its own. For the first time, Alex sees what his brain never showed him, the complete picture. This is called aggregation. Your brain remembers separate experiences. However, your statement combines every decision into one number. The strange part, Alex still doesn't think he's overspending, because every decision made sense until they were added together. Alex decides to pay the minimum amount due. It feels like the easiest option, and technically, he is still on time. His brain feels relieved. The problem seems smaller. However, the numbers tell a different story. The unpaid balance stays on the card, and now, Alex's credit utilization quietly climbs higher. Nothing changes in Alex's daily routine. He still buys coffee, still pays for fuel, still taps the same card. That's the trap. The habit continues because nothing feels different. Banks don't see Alex's intentions. They only see the numbers reported on his account. A higher utilization ratio can signal increased risk, even if every payment is made on time. Alex thinks he is managing his credit. The system sees someone relying on more of it. One perspective is emotional, the other is mathematical. And mathematics never ignores small decisions. Without realizing it, Alex is not just building a balance, he is building a pattern. A few days later, Alex makes himself a promise. Next month, he will spend less and pay down the balance. The plan feels responsible, and because the sacrifice belongs to future Alex, making it feel surprisingly easy. Then, Friday arrives. His friends invite him out after work. Alex remembers the balance. For a moment, he considers going home. But the night out is happening now. The credit card bill, however, belongs to next month. So Alex goes. Not because he forgot his promise, but because today's reward suddenly feels more important. Researchers call this delayed discounting. As consequences move further into the future, we often give them less weight today. Hyperbolic discounting is one influential model used to describe this pattern. In simple terms, later can feel much smaller than it really is. That's why Alex can genuinely want less debt tomorrow and still choose another swipe tonight. His goal hasn't changed. The timing has, and timing can completely change what feels worth choosing. The next statement arrives. Alex sees the balance, but another number catches his attention first. Minimum payment due, $75. Suddenly, the full balance feels less urgent. Alex knows he could pay more. However, $75 is now the number sitting inside his head. In 2009, psychologist Neil Stewart studied this exact effect on credit card repayments. He found that displaying a minimum payment could pull the amount people chose to repay downward. The minimum was not just information. For partial payers, it could become a psychological anchor. An anchor gives your brain a starting point. Once you see a number, your judgment can drift toward it. So Alex doesn't ask, "How much can I repay?" He starts asking, "How much above 75 feels enough?" So Alex doesn't ask, "How much can I repay?" He starts asking, "How much above 75 feels enough?" He chooses $100. It feels responsible because it is more than the minimum. But Alex is comparing $100 to 75. The balance is comparing $100 to everything he still owes. The payment goes through. Alex feels relief almost immediately. In his mind, he has dealt with the problem. But relief is an emotion. The remaining balance, however, is still a number. The next morning, his card still works. His coffee still costs $5. Nothing warns him to stop. So, the reward returns immediately, while the remaining debt stays quietly in the background. This is the loop. Spend now, feel good now, pay something later, feel relieved. Then, spend again. Each part makes sense alone. Together, they create a system Alex never consciously designed. Meanwhile, his unpaid balance remains high, and his utilization does not magically reset because he paid the minimum. Alex promises himself the same thing again. Next month, he will finally get serious. But we have already seen what happens when tomorrow competes with a reward available today. Alex isn't trapped by one bad decision. He's trapped by a loop made of perfectly understandable decisions. So, how does Alex escape a loop built from decisions that all feel reasonable? Not by becoming more disciplined overnight. He starts by making the invisible visible. Alex opens his account and looks at every purchase from the last 30 days. For the first time, he doesn't look at the total, he looks at the pattern. $5 coffee isn't the problem. Buying it automatically every morning is the pattern. So, Alex changes one thing. He removes his credit card from his phone. The next purchase now requires effort, and that tiny friction gives his brain time to reconsider. Behavioral science calls this friction. Small barriers can change behavior by interrupting automatic actions. Alex still wants the coffee. The difference is, now he has a moment to choose it. And breaking an automatic loop begins with exactly that, a moment where choice returns. But friction only interrupts the spending. Alex still has a balance waiting for him. This time, he ignores the minimum payment number that controlled his attention before. He asks a different question. How much can I realistically pay before spending on anything optional? The minimum is no longer his target. Reducing the balance becomes the target. Then Alex watches the number we have followed from the beginning, his credit utilization. As the reported balance falls, the percentage can fall with it, assuming his available credit stays unchanged. For the first time, Alex can connect today's decision with a consequence he can actually see. The future is no longer a vague promise. It has a number attached to it. That matters because present bias becomes harder to ignore when tomorrow is made visible today. Alex hasn't changed his brain. He has changed the environment his brain makes decisions inside. Then Alex makes one final change. He stops waiting for the statement to tell him what happened. Once a week, he reviews the purchases, one by one, that his brain would normally forget. Now, the small decisions are aggregated before an entire month can hide them. The coffee is still $5. The difference is, Alex can finally see how often $5 appears. He hasn't banned spending. He's removed the blindness that made repetition feel invisible. And slowly, the loop begins to lose its power. But here's the important part. Alex was never the real subject of this story. Alex is fictional. The mechanisms shaping his decisions are not. Delayed pain, immediate reward, future costs discounted. A minimum payment that can anchor attention. None of these forces need to control you. But first, you have to notice when they are making the decision with you. Because the most expensive swipe may not be the biggest one. It may be the one your brain learns to repeat without asking you anymore. So, before your next tap, ask one question. Am I choosing this purchase or repeating it? The answer might tell you more about your money than your statement ever could. Because your credit card remembers every swipe. The real question is, which ones has your brain learned to forget?